Hey everyone, I'm trying to get a good angle. We're gonna kind of move around for a second till we do. Okay, so I'm gonna try not to squint too much. Okay, so I wanted to do my Purpose Sunday Scope, so welcome to that. And my name is ShaniTClark, and I am a speaker, consultant, trainer, as well as a professional and personal development coach. And I'm going to try not to squint. And I'm coming today because for our Purpose Sunday Scope, I wanted to do special education teacher, Miss LaTonya, to talk to her about her purpose and how does she get into this specific area. I know that many of you are thinking about your purpose if you're trying to make a change, move in a new direction, and giving yourself different ideas on how you can make that shift. Okay, so what I wanted to interview her about was her experiences as in other areas and how does she move into special education and why she loves it so much. So LaTonya, thank you for coming out today, and we appreciate you so much. And starting off, can you tell us a little bit about your experience and how did you even get into the area of special education?
Well, Shani, I appreciate you having me. And first of all, it was very interesting how I began because I truly believe I've always had a heart for children. Yes. I'm a child at heart. And when I would say 8 years old is when I realized I truly had a heart for children, or I was aware of that seed that was planted by God, because I had a little sister. I was an only child for 8 years. And when I had her, I was the little mama, quote unquote. So I started taking care of her. But fast forward, I was in a profession where I was making good money. I was working for a telephone company. And I just had to pause for a moment because I had been there for 5 years and realized that I wasn't bearing fruit. And obedience was a hard thing for me.
Yes. Say that one more time.
Obedience is a hard thing at times because you're comfortable. You really feel as though you are going to be okay with where you are. You make all types of excuses, and that was one of the hardest things for me, was to overcome that fear.
Definitely.
When I went back to school, I realized that I had been running away from what God really wanted from me. So God used actually my mother in an interesting way. She was telling me there was opportunities to become a special educator. They were recruiting because there was such a high need for teachers that specialize in helping children with disabilities.
Okay, so I have a question for you. So how did you convince yourself to go back to school for this area? I know for many people who are thinking about a change, you kind of sit there and you think about it and you think about it and you keep on working, you keep on doing the same thing, but to make a change where you go to school for that area, that's a difficult thing.
It really was, Shani, because I had already had an undergrad degree in a different area. So it was in sociology with a minor in psychology. So I had to go back to school. I had to spend more money. I had a lot of people looking at me as though I had lost my mind because it was going to take more time away from my job. However, I had to think about Jeremiah 29:11.
Yes.
As I prayed, God just put that in my spirit, that He knows the plans that He has for me. Plans for a hope in the future, fulfilling those purposes. So when I started to truly meditate on that, and to this day, that's one of my favorite verses because it certainly has helped many others that I have taught with. But I do know that it was but God that had me change my mind, because I didn't have a lot of understanding.
Yes.
And people fear what they don't know. They don't understand. So with that being said, God opened up the door, though. It was so easy. I went in and I finished my certification in 2 years versus the 4.
Yes.
And I was able to start without taking my state exam. I had 3 years lateral entry. So that was but God. And I'm going to tell you, my life changed for the better. My family, I was happier. My health improved. So all I can say is, when you are fulfilling God's purposes, in Romans 8:28, He talks about how it makes all things that are good.
And that's
work together for the good.
That's a big point, because sometimes when you have to walk into God's purpose for your life, there takes sacrifice. There takes a big change in your lifestyle for at least the time to be able to move into a new direction. And for many of us, People see the sacrifice and they feel like it's too much. They make excuses for that. But you had the vision to see past the difficulty of the moment to be able to see what was next for you. And for many of you, if you know that's something that you need to do, that you have to go to school, you have to make some type of lifestyle change, you may have to make money changes, financial changes, you have to ask God first. What is your full plan for me? And if he's asking you to move into a new direction, yes, it may be sacrifices for the time, but eventually it's going to end up being more for you than what you have now. So you can continue in what you have now and continue to make excuses, but that also keeps you from the good that he has for you in the future. So making those sacrifices in the moment is really worth it in the end. So how did you know for sure that, there's a lot of people who love kids. I love kids. But I can tell you for sure that I would never go into special education because I know that's not me. So how did you know that specific area was where you wanted to focus?
Well, I can truly say at first I wasn't really aware of what my purpose was with children in regard to the special education portion of it. But when I started realizing how many children were just falling between the gaps in my 3 years of teaching, when I first started as lateral entry, I started seeing how these children that had special needs, not only were they frustrated, the parents were frustrated in how to help them live to their fullest potential, be more independent, be productive citizens of the community, because we have to realize God has made us all in his perfect plan. We are all fearfully and wonderfully made. So just because a child may learn differently doesn't mean they cannot learn. They have skill sets that they can also accomplish. And so during those 3 years, God truly ministered to me to truly stay in special education, because I had a choice as to whether I wanted to go into actually general education or special education. The passion was there. I just loved seeing the growth and the response to how God used me in a mighty way to not only build relationships with the parents to help them help their children, but also to see the children feeling confident, to feel as though someone truly cares about them. And not that people didn't care, but sometimes in the rush of all things, we sometimes forget that children that have special needs may have a different way of viewing things, and we have to be more compassionate, more mindful of how we relate to them. So that's when I knew that God has truly put me in a place where I need to be at that time. And now he's stretching me to a different level and actually helping advocate for parents as far as working with them on helping their home life to be more productive with special needs children. I have a sister that has a special needs child, and it has been really tough for her. And in seeing that, I realize a lot of parents are frustrated. They come home after a long days of work, and I hear that so much over the years in working with special needs children, when we would have meetings or when we would talk on the phone, that the underlying frustrations were crippling the whole entire family. So with that being said, there are many resources, but parents may not know they're available. So God has truly put in my spirit to also begin venturing out and networking more to help these parents have a more productive lifestyle at home for their children as well, and they can be even more productive in the school system.
And that's kind of one thing I want to hit on too, because she started off just thinking of herself as a teacher. But when you start, God will begin to even expand your vision more and to see the fuller the scope of who you can help and who you can touch. So from just going from loving kids to making the sacrifice to go back to school and to education, now she's in the place where God is showing her a wider vision of being an advocate and going out and speaking to different groups and being that light to parents and community members to really help them on an even higher level than just in the classroom. And we want to encourage you that if God is showing you one thing, he may have an even larger, bigger scope out there available for you than what you've even thought about. But will you be willing to take that first step, to walk it out, to see step by step what he has for you, and then to be open to the fact that he may have even more? And it is not easy taking that next step. we were kind of talking about going from one area and you think God has called you to one thing, and then he begins to expand your vision, but then to continue to be obedient, to let him move you into other areas. So can you tell us a little bit about the things you would like to do as far as speaking and other things like that?
Well, sure, Shani. I have been definitely dealing with the pressures of everyday life. However, it has not, God cannot be ignored. So what I have been visualizing, or have the vision that's been placed within me, is to actually create a means for parents to be able to be a sounding board for them, to help them find the right resources for their children, but to also help their home life be more functional, more structured. Oftentimes, children with special needs, they respond more positively to the more structure they have. And sometimes when you have an unpredictable work schedule or things, life happens, the children are going to respond even more so than a child that I would say typically developing child. So in that, parents need help. They need to understand the dynamics of how the home life can affect their child's performance in school. And they just need to have a sounding board to vent their frustrations, because a lot of parents really don't know what to do and don't know how to venture out to get the help they need. So it's something that has been placed in my heart from things that I have seen in my profession, but also personally in my family. And I just feel God can use us in a mighty way to help these parents to make a more productive lifestyle for their home, for their parent, and then also to be happier and just have the family live to their fullest potential in what God has planned for them. Because God plants seeds in all of us. And the only way that we can truly tap into that is to follow his lead and follow his plan and purpose. So with helping special needs children and supporting them, we have to start with the parents, because the parents realize they have a lot of power, and I want them to feel empowered, that they can help plant that seed as well and be a better sounding board or a better advocate for their children as well.
And if you notice, she knows what she's talking about. She's an expert. So if you know of any groups that would like someone like LaTonya, who has that expertise in special education, to come out and talk to parents, family members, community members about how to set up that structure within the home, within their school systems, the classroom, then please make sure you contact her. And how would people contact you? What's the best way?
You can reach me via email, LaTonya, spelled LaTonya.Moore with 2 O's, at hotmail.com. Again, it's LaTonya.Moore@hotmail.com. And just provide your information, what frustrations you've been experiencing, and how to help your child at home or through the school system, and ways that, and maybe resources that specifically you're looking for. But we can always start off just venting your frustrations on what you can do to help your child, and we can go from there.
So please make sure you get in contact with her. Don't let this wonderful gift, this expert, just kind of sit here. She has something to give, and make sure that you reach out and really be a support to others around you. So this is ShaniTClark again, and I just want to thank you for coming to my Purpose Scope Sunday. I will be back on this coming Thursday, which I will be continuing to talk about surrender and power and moving into the next step God has for you. And that's Thursdays at 9 p.m. on Periscope. And if you want to contact me, my Facebook, Twitter, and Periscope is ShaniTClark, but you can also go to my website at ShaniTClark.weebly.com. And I'm also doing an upcoming webinar on December the 15th on living in victory. If you want to know more on that, I will talk about that this Thursday, but also on my website. So thank you again for your time, and I hope you have a blessed Sunday. Bye.
Be blessed.